All right, you're welcome to this particular class. Promises to be very, very exciting. I'm laying a very, very solid foundation to how you're going to be able to understand charts. Of course, it's very good to follow signals, but for how long do you want to do that? What if the guy just posting or giving you the signals are, is just maybe just manipulating the trends or just copying and pasting what's wrong. So, and then even if you're following a signal, wouldn't it be better if you can also interpret what has been sent to you to do? So I think it's always imperative. Don't might seem like a lazy way, just copying, pasting and all. But I feel eventually when you get the skill is always better. All right. So let's do this. This is my MetaTrader 4, and I'm sure you by now should have one. I do my chart analysis on my system, and then I do my trades on my phone. It's quite easy for me to do it that way. But then you need to first be very familiar with your MT4. Most times when you launch a new pair, let me just go ahead and do that. Let me launch. Okay, let me launch USD Okay. And then most likely, this is what you're going to have first. One thing I like to do is I have a template already set, but I'm going to quickly show you how you can set yours also. It's very, very important. You can trade, you can map out charts with this template that you have, the very plain natural template, but it's not always the best because you really can't see what you're meant to see in the course of trading. You just have everything plain is not always the best. So then you do this. You first go to properties, and then you're going to set this. The colors, your background color, you change it white. These colors have been proven to at least aid the psychology of a trader. Instead of me going through all of that afresh now, I'm just going to go on an existing chart of mine and then show you. All right, so the property of this particular is going to be displayed here for the next 30 seconds. Do write it down or do copy it so you can replicate on your own MetaTrader 4. So I think we have how many seconds to go? 15 seconds to go. Okay, good. I'm sure you're getting it. And then they're fine. Then you come over to common, ensure that you have the same settings like I have. All right. Once that is done, you just click OK, and then you are starting off. So, all right, this is it. Then subsequently, you don't always need to then have to create that template again. You just come over to templates, and then I've saved several templates. You're going to have some saved already for you. Price action, these are the ones I saved. Then Toby Carl. All right, so good. I just launched Toby Carl. And then here we go. Of course, you can either check your charts with lines, candlesticks, or bar, but candlesticks have been proven to represent the market in a better way. So there's no point trying to waste your time using other things. Of course, in other classes, I'm going to show at least how you can use the line and then the bar chart. But the candlesticks still remain the best representation you can get for every financial market that you have, be it cryptocurrencies, be it indices, be it futures, whatever financial market it is, the candlestick still remains our best way to be able to tell the activities in the market. All right, so if you launch your MetaTrader 4 and you don't have all of these things I have here, not to worry, just come over to view. and then you come over to toolbars, then you click standard charts, lines, studies, time frames. You add every one of them, you had them there, and then that should be fine. If you have navigators and then it's somewhat disturbing you, you can always close it and then bring it back. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, without taking too much time, I want to show that, and then we'll look out for it on USDCHF, and then I'm going to open another pair to still be able to prove this same point we want to get. This is the foundation. You get this right, you get so many other things right. First thing you look out for on every chart is the overall trend of the market. And then you need to understand that there are only 3 trends that the market has. The market has only 3 trends that you should focus on. And number 1 is either you are having an upward trend. Number 2, you are having a downward trend. You should write this down. Or 3, you're having a consolidation, that is a sideways movement. I'm going to show all of that in no time. You're either having an upward trend, a downward trend, or you're having what? A consolidation. That is, the prices at that, when you're having a downward trend, that is, you're having a decrease in the chart is going downwards, right? So that's a sell movement. That is, you're selling. In a downward trend, you should be selling. And then in an upward trend, you should be buying. In a consolidating trend, is either you wait or then you are only maximizing the ups and downs, the little movements that you have present in there. Okay, so good. We want to check now, what's the overall trend of this market that we are currently on? For you to know that, you first go to the monthly chart. This is where you want to tell. When you are on the monthly chart, each of these candlesticks represents a month, an entire month. So that's a lot of information put up into one single candlestick. So this, for example, this particular candlestick shows you that the price opened at this point and then closed at this point, and then this is the highest point it got to, then this is the lowest point of price in this particular month that this candlestick represents, right? While the same thing, this shows you that, of course, when the candlestick ends in a red, it shows you that that was a bearish month. That is, you had more selling activities than buying activities. If the candlestick closes in a blue or green, depends on what you did. But if you followed the template I sent, the setting, if you are using the same setting like I showed at the beginning of this class, you should have your red candlesticks showing you that what is a sell market, that is more sellers at the day. If it's a blue, it's showing you that what there's more buying activity in that particular month. Then if you have this sort of candlestick, it shows you that what the opening price and closing price in that particular month was about the same thing, very close to same or the same. That is, the same place the price opened is where the price also closed. However, in the course of the month, this is the highest point the price got to, and this is the lowest point the price got to. The same thing here, this is the lowest point the price got to, this is the highest point the price got to, this is the opening price, this is the closing price. All right, having said that, we're going to need to zoom in and then look at the chart carefully. You don't need to assume or say nothing like it has gone down too much, it has gone up too much. You only want to spot the overall trend in the market. And then this is how you go about it. You use your trend line. What you are looking out for, you are looking out for the lows, the lower lows. In a downward trend, you are looking out once you have 2 consecutive lower lows. That is, I'm going to, don't get it twisted. I'll show you what I mean by lower low. For an example, this is a low, this point, this is a low, but this low is lower than this. So this is a low, this is your lower low, this is a lower low, even lower than this lower low, and this is another lower low. Are you getting? So once you're having consecutive lows, it shows you that what you are in a downward trend. How do you mark that out? You only chase the most consecutive pathway on which the market moved. All right. Yeah, of course, it won't always be perfect. It won't always, but try as much as possible to touch the major weeks or the major points where you have most of the movements, where you have most of the movements. And then we're trying to spot the trend. And then on the other hand, you can use the top side if that gives you a better understanding of price movements. All right. You don't need to be biased. Don't try to make the chart say what it's not saying. All you just have to do is what? Follow the trends as you're seeing. Okay. So this is what looks like to be more consistent. And then on the other hand, some people may want to try, if you're just looking out for 3 points, which I think is more realistic actually, to look out for 3 consecutive points. Looking out for 3 consecutive points, I think would be more realistic. So let me take this down, and I'll likely take this down. All right, because we're looking for what? The most consistent part. Of course, from all this place and thereabout, you're already sure that what? It's a downward trend. But for us to draw a trend line, you actually have to just place and be careful to see that your trend line is placed at the tip of the week, and then make sure that it's cutting across the major parts. That is, look at this part where I eventually put the trend line. You have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, you have 5, several touches on that particular trend. So it makes it a very, very, very consistent part to focus on. And then what you're going to see in a bit, let me do this. Trend line properties. I like my monthly trend line to be way, way thicker than the others so that I can be able to identify what I'm doing. And then I love to make it blue. All right, so this is a part. And you can see how price respected this trend line that we have drawn. Once the price broke above this trend, then it came, retested, then broke, and then it continued a downward movement. This is a very, very strong trend line to pay attention to for USD CHF. So then we can be sure that from this point through to this point, there's what we refer to as a trend line breakout. Just put your heart to it, you're going to understand it. That's where the trend eventually gets exhausted, and then the formation of a new trend. So for this chart now, eventually this trend line got broken, right? And then prices are now happening above this our trend line. And that's to tell you, and then I said that when you're watching for the highs, you need to look out for, if you want to know if you're in an upward trend, you need to look out for what? The highs and the highs. That is, you have a high point, then you have a point that is higher than the previous high. That already begins to show you that what you are in an upward trend. So look at this now. This is a high, right? If we're coming from the base, this is higher than this point. So that's already depicting again that what we are beginning what? An upward trend. This is a very, very key point to pay attention to for USD CHF as our example. And then if you want to put it at the top, you are having this. This is a high, but this is higher than this high. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but you can see the trend forming already. All you do is what? Just trade what you see. Don't try to give the market a voice that it doesn't necessarily have. All right, good. So this is the present situation in this market. We're having an upward trend. You can measure the pips. Being on monthly is going to show that should be a whole lot, quite a lot. So before you have, this is about about 8,000, yeah, 8,040 pips or thereabout movement. That if the trend continues to range in here before, and then being that we are beginning an upward trend, this is what we have at the moment. You could still have the break of this trend, right? You could still have the break above. Excuse me. So this is the beginning of the trend. You could have either a break above, right? Or you could have a break beneath. If this line gets broken, it shows that our price is definitely coming in to respect this trend line that we have. All right. Once you have this mapped out, you know that for this chart, this trend presently, we are in an upward trend. We are in an upward trend. The downward trend came all the way from here, and then it's been exhausted because it has broken this. The downward trend has been broken, and we're on the monthly chart. This has been broken for several months behind. This is almost several years now. You know, if you're checking through, 12 candlesticks will make 1 year, and this has happened several years ago. So as a day trader, someone who is interested in making you're interested in making just 100, 200 pips and all of that, 40 pips, 30 pips, you necessarily don't have to spend all your time on the monthly chart, but you need to understand the trend that is predominant on every chart that you open. All right, so then I'm going to come over to the weekly chart and then still try to look out for the overall performance of the market. And then you can already see, you know, this is the lowest point as far as this chart can go, but you have this trend, the same trend line we came from got broken, and then we have this, we still have this very relevant movement. So for a short term, let me draw this. We began having other sets of highs here, right? And then price did this from this lowest point, got here, got reversed. So let me do this again. On the weekly trend, this is what looks to be persistent. This is higher than this high. This high is higher than the two of them, and on like that. So still looking at this trend, projection is about, for a short-term trend, we're having about 300 pips to work with right here. So without making things complicated and then wasting too much of time, we can then go on H1. For easy, I'm still going to change this color. Then let's do the green for it. So I'm showing, I'm basically making you understand that you need to always differentiate your trend line so that you can see. For every chart, one thing I would encourage you to do is make sure you go practice this, back test it. It's not going to cost you anything, and then you will make money eventually, but just make sure you are back testing and then you know what you're doing. All right, so you can see the gap keeps coming because the weekly chart, the monthly chart, they are way different from each other. So on the monthly trend, you have an excess of 360 something pips. Of course, you, like I said, you that you're day trading, your intention is to open a trade and close in the shortest possible time. So you may not necessarily be working with all these long durations, but they are still very, very important. You need to always understand the overall trend in the market that you are in. You need to always understand the overall trend in the market that you are in. So on a daily, this is what it looks like. It's still showing what? Still confirming that what? We're in an upward trend. And then for the daily, let's use this. I love to use colors that naturally just make me happy, sort of. Yeah. Trading is it's not a do or die something. So let me go for blue, but I don't want it to be close to the other blue I used. Okay, this is quite different. So I understand this is what's happening on my daily chart. Let me do this. I really want to mark out my daily very, very well. Okay, I think this should suffice. I think this should suffice. Yeah. And of course, I can still, attempt to validate this trend. Let's see if, oh, shoot. I'm trying to see how valid, but then I'm trying to see. Okay, let me not force it. It's not happening naturally, so I just delete it. Okay, but this looks to be very, very consistent and persistent, right? You have this down here, and then it already shows that it was coming below the daily chart at some point, but now it has broken past, right? It has broken past, and then it still remains very, very valid. All right, it's not going to be a perfect straight line, straight dots every time. No, 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 no. But what you just have to do is to make sure you are working with the most consistent part, and then don't be biased. Don't try to make the chart say what it's not saying, right? Okay. So on H4 now, I'm looking out for, okay, what's happening. Since overall, I know, okay, it seems to be it's an upward trend that we are having. The downward trend had been exhausted, and then all right, so for my H4 now, what I'm looking out for is how to validate what I'm seeing on the overall chart. Now I'm on H4, and then this is a very, very valid trend. This is a high, and then this was when the trend we were having before, the downward trend, got exhausted, right? There's an upward overall trend on a larger time frame, but in between them, you are going to have downsides. You're going to have when reversals would always continue to happen. I hope I hope you just get that. Reversals will always happen, right? Though it's an overall uptrend, you can see this point is lower than this new high that we have. Are you getting it? So focusing on the overall trend, you keep having more highs. A new high comes and it's higher than the previous high. So my expectations right here, my bias right here is going to be a buy. When you are buying, you are predicting what? An increase in the price. That is an upward trend. That's what you're predicting. When you're selling, you are predicting what? A downward trend. All right. So you won't, however, just go ahead to say, okay, it's time to buy. Yeah, just go ahead and buy. Always look out for what? A breakout point. For example, in this particular chart, let me go back to H4. The breakout points and the retest points at times are not always conspicuous when you are on a larger time frame. So you need to go on a lower time frame rather, to go confirm your entry point and your exit points. All right. So for this chart right now, if you were to take a buy, say you wanted to trade at the break of this particular trend, you wanted to take this trade at the break of this trend, this is the right way to go about it. Okay. On H1, I can already see the breakout point. This was a reversal candlestick to show that. And then the price came to retest this line, right? And even came a little bit below. But the body, look at your focus right now is going to be on the body of these candles. That is, the body of these candles didn't close below the line. This is quite a substantial result to tell you that what this trend line is now what is broken, because you already have this trend took you out there, right? But you're not just going to follow this. This is not where to follow, because it can do this and then go back straight down, right? But you're going to watch out for a retest. There's always a retest. Always, there will always be a retest. Or let me not be too short to say always, but when I say always, at least 80% of the time, there will always be a retest. And then instead of you catching what's it called, a falling knife, why not wait? Because there are myriads of opportunities in this market. Opportunities never cease in the market. If you are not finding it on USCHF, you'll find it on other peers that you can work with. So you have this retest, and then you have this. This would have been a very better place, a better position to buy. As for me, once this has happened and then this candlestick has closed above, and then the following candlestick came as a reversal to this, because this reversed this trend. This particular candlestick, this bullish candlestick, reversed this upward trend, and then we have this bullish candlestick reversing this particular candlestick. This shows you that what the buyers are now in control of this market. At the close of this candlestick would have been a very good opportunity for you to buy this pair. And then once you buy, you are in a potential growth of what? To get to this point overall. But never forget, the price is not just going to go upside, and then keep going up this way. No, it's going, you can see, even though it was on a downtrend all the way here, you keep having some up points, you keep having some. So the same way is still, the same thing is still going to be repeated. So if you are looking out for new positions or new points to re-enter into this market, and you don't want your stop loss to be too excessive, because your stop loss should be anywhere below this trend line, right? Anywhere below, maybe about a pip or two below this trend line, or the next trend that is beginning to form. So what I do recommend at this point is that what you wait for the price to get to consolidating points, and then before you can be able to re-enter into the market. However, if you know you are not you don't have the skill to always know where to enter in between trends, is not always the best for you to do. Just go look out for another opportunity at key levels. So I'm sure that this would be a very good way for you to to look at trend lines, and then be able to use them to make more money for yourself. If you look out for, okay, let's look at on the same chart on M15 now, each candlestick here depicting 15 minutes, we're able to see a proper retest. That is, we had the breakout, and then we had the price being reversed, but all the candlesticks forming never closed, right? You already showed the opening and the closing points of candlestick. None of them closed below the trend line, right? And then you have these reversals happening. So this, in fact, if you have used a lower time frame, you'll be able to find better spots of entry. Of course, they may not be as strong or accurate as your higher time frames, but it's always better to look for your entry points there. That's for a case or a situation whereby you want to maximize the direction of the movement of the market. So that will be that. You can unmute yourself if you have any questions, so that I can quickly be able to address that. If you have any question, you can quickly unmute yourself so that I can take your question. And in absence of that, John, do you have any question?
I will like to ask this question.
Right.
Are you with me?
Loud and clear.
You were saying something about the entry point, whereby um, when you check the candlesticks to be able to, how exactly am I going to get a direct and a sure entry point whenever it's going, whether the upward trend or the downward trend?
Okay. That's a very good question. Uh, let me address it this way. Like I said, once you discover, you can unmute yourself now, please. Once you discover that your trend line that you've drawn, like I drew trend lines from the monthly down to the weekly and then down to, but since we are not trading on those higher time frames, we are trading on lower time frames. So our entry point would have to be on the what, on the lower time frames. And then I said H4 would become more like the most important place for you as a day trader to always check out your analysis. But when you want to make your entry, when you want to make your entry and you really want to maximize the what's it called, the price movement at that time. Say for example, for someone who is trading on H4 you already have a retest, right? This is a retest. Like the price got broken here, it broke through this point. Then you have the price coming. This was the lowest point the price got to this particular week here, but the price still closed way above here. That showed you that in the course of these 4 hours that this candlestick represents, price had already come to retest this point. But for a 4 hour trader, for someone who is trading on strictly the 4 hour candle, you won't be able to enter this trade until this point. And then you are coming in, look at where it still got into just 15 pips or thereabout that you would have made because you waited on a 4 hour candlestick, right? It's not a bad thing to wait, on a 4 hour candlestick. It's more accurate and all of those things. But now your stop loss as a trader here would be, you can just imagine, your stop loss would be somewhere around, let's say, somewhere below this trend line. We have to respect this week. So let's go a little bit below. So let's say about 30 pips stop loss is what you are setting. And then of course though you want to gain as much as maybe 300 pips or thereabout, but for someone who is coming in here who came on a lower time frame to come and examine what is happening to this market, right? um when I come on a smaller time frame, I've seen the breakout, but you don't follow the breakout yet. You wait for price to what, to retest the trend line. That's how to let you know that what, the trend line has been broken. There's always a retest. There would always be a retest. There would look at when this got broken, it came back to retest and then down and then up. There would always be a retest. So you need to always be patient to wait for your retest point. Are you getting it? So having waited for this retest now, you are coming in at the close of this bullish candle, right? At the close of this bullish candle, and then you come in. You can just imagine this is the highest point it's gotten to. This guy who is coming in on this trade at the lower time frame is up about 30 pips. And then he's going to be setting a stop loss below, just a little bit below this week. That's going to be 11 pips stop loss. So in case he's going to be losing this trade, this guy is losing 11 pips, and then he's going to be making about 300 pips if he's waiting till the very end of this particular upward trend that is going. And then if it breaks above again, it's going to be more opportunities on the other side. But entering on a smaller time frame after a retest, makes sure that what you are reducing. Number one, you reduce the risk you're going to be taking. That is, your stop loss will be reduced, and then your take profit would be quite higher than someone who did. Of course, you can still do that on a much lower time frame. But anything below 5 minutes, you're not trading anymore. And in fact, I don't, even for me, I still wait as much as possible to see the retest properly on 15 minutes, and then be sure that you are having what's it called, a reversal candlestick before you go ahead to place your trade. I'm sure I've been able to do justice to that question. And then for subsequent questions, I think you still have my mail. My mail would be there for you to be able to communicate with me. and then we can always take it through. So this will be it on Trendline. And then before you are able to take any trade at all, at least practice this on 5 different charts. Look out for what's it called? Look out for the overall trend of the market. You can always send that to me to help you look at it to be sure that you're doing the right thing. I can't wait to see you at the very top. That's where you're meant to be. And then thank you very much. This is going to be the end of this very class. See you in the next video.